Good morning, everyone. Is my audio and video clear? Please let me know in the comment section before we begin. Good morning, Atithi, Akash, Chetan, Bhakti. Is my audio and video clear? Okay. Good morning, good morning. Shalom. Alright then. So, a very good morning to everyone watching this video. I am Manat Sharma from Olive Board, and I'm here with the live mint analysis that we do every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 a.m. Now, this is important from your exam point of view because what we do is we take up the important articles, try to link it with the static portion, and then cover each and everything very holistically. Fine. All the best, Abhishek. Do well. I'm sure you're going to ace it. Okay, and keep continuing your preparation as well. Fine. Chalo, if you want to download this YouTube class PDF, you can do it from the Olive Board app. Go to the courses section, and वहाँ पे there's separate folder for YouTube class PDFs. You can download the PDF from here. Fine. Now the first question that I have for you is a surprise question only. Once you answer this question, then we'll move on to the first article. Okay, let me see whether you have read the newspaper or not. One of the major article was there in the newspaper. Which asset has recently overtaken the euro to become the world's second largest reserve asset according to global central banks data. So we know that the first, or you can say the largest reserve asset right now in the whole world is euro. Okay, this was sorry, the second largest reserve asset was euro. Okay, second largest reserve asset. Now something has overtaken euro to become the world's second largest reserve. What is it? Yes, very good. Yes, John, Bhakti, and Chetan, absolutely correct. So gold is the correct answer. So gold has surpassed euro to become the second largest reserve asset. Fine. So we have this article over here, signals for India from what global central banks did. What are the signals for India? So we're talking about what the central banks are doing as of now, and what can India, learn from it, or what can India perceive from this. So global central banks like the U.S. Federal Reserve, the Bank of England, the Bank of Japan, they have taken cautious stances. We are seeing that there are geopolitical, problems across the world, geopolitical tensions. We have, economic uncertainties there. The stock markets are also very volatile, है ना? So यहाँ पे the US Federal Reserve, basically the central banks, global central banks, they have brought in cautious stances. ठीक है? They have made these their developments have major implications for global markets, asset prices, India's macroeconomic trajectory as well. And right now, gold has surpassed euro as the world's second biggest reserve asset. Now you've seen that the gold prices have surged immensely. In fact, in the last 2 years, they have actually doubled. The prices of gold have actually doubled. Why? Because gold is perceived to be it is a safer haven. It's a safe asset to put your money in. And we are seeing that the global stock markets, the Indian stock market, the stock markets have become very volatile. So people are shifting towards safe assets like gold, right? But if you see here, this global central banks have taken up a caution. They have taken up a cautious stance, but RBI has, despite these geopolitical tensions, despite these global cautions, RBI still has brought in a major repo rate cut. Through these various sessions. In June only, 50 basis points cut has been brought in by RBI. Okay, so we are actually not going with the global caution, basically what this article is saying. So gold has surpassed euro, you have to remember this. Interest rates were held steady by the global central banks. That is what they are saying, that the global central banks, they have kept their They've kept their interest rate steady. Whether we talk about the Federal Reserve, their rate is similar to the previous rate, 4.25 to 4.5%. Bank of England has also kept the interest rates unchanged. And Bank of Japan is continuing to raise the rates gradually. Japan is raising the rate. So basically, they are maintaining a cautious stance. But if you see India's trajectory, India has been reducing the repo rate, and it's bringing in steep repo rate cuts. Okay, if you see the US economic outlook also, Fed projects US GDP growth at 1.4% in 2025, and we are seeing that there might be a stagflationary trend. Unemployment is rising. Okay, unemployment is rising. GDP growth, we are seeing that it might be 1.4%, down from 2.8%. Okay, here there's this word called stagflation here. What do you mean by stagflation? If you know it, write down in the comment section what is the meaning of stagflation. What is the meaning of stagflation? Okay? Gold prices have also surged by 30%. So everybody is moving towards the safe haven asset. And RBI cut rates by 50 basis points in June, making India one of the few major economies who are following a loosening monetary policy. Okay? But still, right now, Sanjay Malhotra ji, our RBI governor, has also said that global economic environment remains fragile and fluid, and that is why we shifted from accommodative to neutral stance also in this June monetary policy meeting. Aditi saying inflation plus unemployment, stagnation in economic growth plus inflation, exactly. So stagflation is a situation wherein there is inflation also, and there is stagnant growth. The word stag is here. Stag is for stagnant growth. And stagnant growth can be shown by unemployment. Okay, there's unemployment plus inflation. When there's this twin problem of high unemployment and inflation, then we would say that there's this problem of stagflation. Fine. Next article, more women working but earnings are a concern. So we are talking about this global gender gap report of 2025, which is presented by the World Economic Forum. This report is very important from your exam point of view. Okay, you have to cover this report. Fine. If you have yet not covered it, you have to cover it. There might be a YouTube session. I think Payal ma'am has taken up a session. Okay, so on YouTube, so you can attend that. So there's this global gender gap report of 2025. Who releases it? World Economic Forum. India is witnessing a rise in the female labor force participation rate, especially in rural areas. Because we are seeing that a female LFPR is rising. Labor force participation rate, female labor force participation rate is rising, especially in the rural areas. But most of this increase is in self-employment, which is low paying, insecure jobs. So even though they are entering the labor force, but still they do not have much security and they are doing low paid work. That means there is a concern of the quality of work and the earnings for women in the workforce. India ranks 131st out of 148 countries in the Global Gender Gap Index 2025. So you have to remember what is the rank of India in the Global Gender Gap Index. It is 131. 131. Okay. LFPR is 76.9% for males, 33.5% for females. So you can see there is a double, there's a double increase in case of males, and women are still falling short. Gender gap is 43.4 percentage points, which is a lot. Okay, India's female LFPR has improved, especially in rural regions post this 2017-18, but this is largely self-employment and low paid work. Okay. Even 2026 has been declared as Year of Women Farmer, aligning with the genesis of this article. Exactly. Exactly. Very good, Chetan. The share of salaried women has declined from 24.3% in 2017-18 to 18.7% in 23-24. You have to remember such kind of data directly in the MCQs. It can be asked in your general awareness portion also. Hai na? This can be asked. So from 24.3% to 18.7%. This is the share of salaried women. Salary disparities exist across regions. Salaried women earn the highest, followed by casual laborers, self-employed women. Okay? Self-employed women, they earn the least. Only 8 states and UTs have over 30% salaried women, which is, quite less. Poorer states like Bihar and UP, they have the lowest share. A surge in women's workforce numbers is not necessarily linked to better job quality. That is why we are saying that women labor force participation rate, we are seeing that the labor force participation rate is increasing, but we are seeing it in the rural areas, and that too in self-employment, which is low paid. So quality of work is not ensured even if LFPR is rising. Okay? So according to the Global Gender Gap Report of 2025, what is the share of female labor force participation rate in India? 43.5%, 38.1%, 33.5%, or 27.2%. What is the answer? According to the Global Gender Gap Report, share of female LFPR in India. Bhakti is saying A, 43.5. Siddharth is saying C, 33.5. Anyone else? Anyone else? Chetan is also saying C. What about others? Atithi, John, Abhishek. Good morning, Sheikh. So the correct answer is C, 33.5%. Okay, that is the share of a female LFPR. It is 33.5%, around 76% for the male. Okay? Yes, C. Chalo next. States get new reform goals for interest-free capex loans. See, we have seen in the previous, I think, we've done it quite long back, that 50-year of interest-free loans will be given to the states. है ना? 50-year interest-free loans will be given to the states for their capital expenditure. ठीक है? Now यहाँ पे the states have got new reform goals in this aspect. ठीक है? States have got reform goals in this aspect. So we are going to read about that. So there's a new set of reform linked conditions which are given to the states, which these states must fulfill to access part of the 1.5 trillion interest free capex loan allocation for financial year 26. So how much money will be given? 1.5 trillion interest free 1.5 trillion interest free capex loan allocation will be done in financial year 26 as part of the 50-year interest free loan which has to be given to the states. But now the government of India has attached conditions. Government has attached conditions to this, that if the states bring in such reforms, if the states fulfill this criteria, only then they will get the money. Okay? The emphasis is going to be on digitization, digital public infrastructure in agriculture, governance, land records, and urban planning. This is going to be the emphasis. Because 1.5 trillion rupees interest-free capex loan allocated for financial year 25 or 26. And what is that money to be given for? Capital expenditure like infrastructure and state-led development. Now, what has the government decided? That out of this money, 60% will be unconditional. 60% will be unconditional. There will be no conditions for this. And this will be linked to your infrastructure spending. Okay? So, is pay you do not have any conditions. This is an unconditional 60%. Rest of the 40%, here with this are going to be tied to specific norms. So only if you fulfill such certain norms, only if you fulfill certain reforms, then only you will get the 40% of the amount. 60% you will get it like that only for infrastructure spending. Rest of the 40% amount you will only get if you bring in specific reforms. Okay? So this is a prerequisite that they have decided. And focus areas will be DPI, financial management systems, digitized land records, urban planning improvements. If you do this, if you have this in your state, these are the, you have to, if you don't have, bring in these reforms. If you have, well and good, you will get the 40% amount. If you don't have these things, you have to focus on these things, fulfill these criteria, and then you'll be able to get the 40% of the money. Okay. Aadhaar based DBT integration with RBI and NPCI is being pushed for better targeting of welfare schemes. Okay. So this DBT with NPCI, RBI, we are tying this up so that there is proper target of the welfare schemes. Okay. States are also expected to enable flexible mixed use land development. Okay. You have to adopt unified land use rules, digitized land approvals. You have to reduce parallel industrial norms, redundant rules. This scheme was first launched in financial year 21. It has helped revive the post-pandemic capital spending, and we've been extending this. Take at around 20-25% of India's total infrastructure spending is now by the states. Okay, so what percentage of the 1.5 trillion interest-free capital expenditure loan for financial year 26 will be tied to a specific reform condition? 100%, 40%, 25%, or 60%? Until and unless you had not read this article, I'm sure it would have been difficult for you to answer this question. So now, give me the answer. John is saying B, Bhakti is saying 40%. What about others? Absolutely correct, 40%. So condition क्या है? 60% unconditional, 40% you have condition. ठीक है? चलो. Will SEBI's angel investor rules slow the startup funding? Now there are certain rules that SEBI has brought in. ठीक है? Certain rules that SEBI has brought in. For angel investors, there has been a criteria shift. Very important. Directly MCQ can be asked from here. ठीक है? So, as SEBI has introduced new regulations requiring only accredited or sophisticated investors to invest in angel funds. So now, not everyone can invest in angel funds. Angel funds. What are angel funds? Anyone? What is angel funding? Who is an angel investor? Who is an angel investor? Anyone? Does anyone want to answer this? What do you mean by um, an angel investor? Early stage startup investor, exactly. So those people who invest in a startup, see what happens is a startup is something, it's a new idea, right? So not everybody would put in their money in a startup, right? People would hesitate in putting up their money in a startup. क्या loss हो गया, then what will happen? And बहुत early stage पे invest करते हैं, even in pre-revenue or even prototype stage पे भी, exactly. So those who take risks in investing in such a startup, those people are called as angel investors. We call them angel investors. ठीक है? अब यहाँ पे what they're saying is पहले there was no such criteria that only accredited or sophisticated investors can invest. But now they have typed the specific criteria that only sophisticated investors. What do you mean by a sophisticated investor? Sophisticated or accredited investor is somebody who has a lot of knowledge in this field, a lot of financial knowledge, investor knowledge, has a lot of about the markets. It has a lot of knowledge. That kind of a person is called a sophisticated or an accredited investor. Now, this move is expected to slow the early stage startup funding. There is a concern that this might, slow up the early stage startup funding. And what we are trying to do is we are going to bring in innovation. We are trying to improve our manufacturing sector. Okay, we are focusing on improving the innovation and the startups. But this move is going to slow down. This move is going to slow down the startup funding, especially in the pre-seed and seed rounds in smaller cities, as new investors may hesitate due to eligibility hurdles. So now there are eligibility hurdles. So that is why there might be an issue with startup funding. Okay? SEBI now allows only accredited investors to invest in angel funds. And what is the qualification that an investor must have. You have to remember this. Please learn this qualification. You can be asked in your MCQ which of the following is a criteria for to qualify as an angel investor, or which of the following is not a criteria to be qualified as an angel investor. Okay. So, to qualify, an angel investor or an investor must have a net worth of 7.5 crore. So, net worth of 7.5 crore is mandatory. Net tangible asset of at least 2 crore, excluding primary residence. So, your net tangible asset, something which you can see, your physical assets, it should be at least of 2 crores. Or, now there's an or here. That means it is not that you have to fulfill all the criteria. There's an or here. So either your net worth is of 7.5 crore, or you have tangible or physical assets at least 2 crore, or you invest at least 25 lakh in an angel fund, or income exceeding 2 crore annually. Your income is exceeding 2 crore annually. So this criteria you have to remember. This accreditation is important. Why? In order to improve transparency, credibility, risk understanding. And these new rules, may hit early stage funding in tier 2 and tier 3 cities the hardest. Okay? And critics are arguing that the current 1 crore investment threshold for entry is outdated. So what were the critics saying? That what was the threshold? That for entering this thing, being an angel investor, your current investment should be 1 crore. But this is outdated and does not reflect today's financial landscape. So SEBI will be issuing certificates of accreditation which will be valid for 3 years. Again, you can be asked. The certificates of accreditation will be valid for how many years to be accredited as a, you can say, an angel investor in a startup funding. So it's 3 years. Okay, and fees will be 12,000. Larger startups and institutional investors, they may remain unaffected. Mostly, this is going to affect the small, or you can say the, in tier 2 and tier 3 early stage funding. This is going to hit the hardest. Fine. So, according to SEBI's new rules, what is the minimum net worth required to qualify as an accredited investor for angel fund investment? So, such kind of questions can be asked. So, you should know this data. 1 crore, 5 crore, 7.5 crore, or 10 crore. What is the answer? Very easy. We've just done it. You will know it. Chetan is saying C. Siddharth is saying C. What about others? 12K is an initial fee. John, 12K, 12,000 is initial fee only, not for the 3 years. Your validity will be for 3 years. And for 3 years only you're paying 12,000. Now, that is going to be the fee. Fine? Okay, John? Yes, so 7.5 crore is absolutely the correct answer. Take care. Next, FM to review push to resolve IT disputes backlog today. So this is by Nirmala Sitharamanji. She is set to hold a high level meeting with senior income tax officials to address and reduce the backlog of income tax disputes. So we have seen that income tax disputes, in fact, all kind of disputes have a huge backlog. You know, they have a huge backlog. So the income tax officials, they are saying that they might reduce this, they are going to reduce this backlog. We're going to have a high level meeting. So this meeting will focus on making tax governance more efficient, improving grievance redressal, fast tracking pending appeals and refunds. Take care. FM will review this age-wise pendency of appeals, push for quicker disposal. Objective is to build a taxpayer-centric, tax-enabled and transparent tax system. And these discussions will include tax refunds which are stuck due to the system related issues, the clerical errors, non processing of returns. So these things will be discussed, and it is going to, these income tax disputes are going to be resolved. So emphasis is going to be on ease of doing business, living through better grievance redressal. Okay, and government might even introduce specified timelines for disposal of appeals. So basically, they're going to discuss and they're going to bring in certain solutions or certain reforms. Field officers will present region-wise data on grievance disposal and unresolved cases in the e-Nivaran system. What is this e-Nivaran system? Who is going to tell me in the comment section what is this e-Nivaran system? E-Nivaran system. So basically, a review of the pending vigilance and disciplinary matters beyond the permissible timelines will be done. So a review will be done for this. Okay? What is this e-Nivaran system? Anyone? Have you heard of this before? Yeah, IDD Income Tax Department का redressal portal exactly. So e-Nivaran, it is an online portal for what? For grievance redress. Income tax related जो grievances है, उसका redressal is done in this online portal called the e-Nivaran system. ठीक है? So what is one of the key objectives of Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman's review of income tax disputes? Introducing new tax rates for corporates, reviewing age-wise pendency of appeals and fast-tracking legacy cases, reducing GST compliance burden, launching a new e-filing portal. What is the answer? Chetan is saying most of the date is down, so good for nothing. Acha. Okay. So B is absolutely the correct answer. Reviewing age-wise pendency of appeals and fast-tracking the legacy cases. ठीक है? The next article is related to this, that the government shelves 8,000 crore plan for 8 new greenfield cities. Here you have to understand the difference between greenfield projects, and brownfield projects. Okay? Who is going to tell me the difference between the two? Greenfield projects, brownfield projects, or you might have heard of greenfield investment, or you might have heard of brownfield investment. So what is the difference between the two? Chetan is saying greenfield from the scratch and brownfield expansion project. Exactly. So when you're investing in an absolutely new entity, new establishment, new entity, that will be termed as greenfield project. When you are starting from the scratch, okay? But when you are investing in an already existing entity, or you're say focusing on expansion of a particular project or a revival of a particular project, that will be termed as brownfield investment or brownfield projects. When you are focusing on existing project, it's called brownfield project. When you're starting up a new project, it will be called as a greenfield project. So now government had this 8,000 crore plan that they are going to bring in greenfield cities, that they are going to bring in new cities basically. But now the government has shelved this 8,000 crore plan. मतलब खत्म कर दिया इस प्लान को. खत्म भी नहीं मतलब कि साइड पे कर दिया इस प्लान को. It has shelved this plan, and now what is the government going to focus on? The existing cities. Revival of existing cities, improvement of existing cities. This is what this article is about. ठीक है, so government had proposed a scheme जहाँ पे they were going to build 8 new greenfield cities, but now this has shelved. This was recommended by the 15th Finance Commission, building 8 new cities. Okay, so this 8,000 crore were previously allocated. Now this will be redirected to a new initiative जहाँ पे वो focus करेंगे upgrading the existing smaller cities into growth hubs. So now their focus will not be on bringing in new cities or making in new cities. The 8,000 crore which was allocated, this money will be redirected. This money will now be used for revival of the existing smaller cities. For expansion projects, this money will be taken up. Okay? And this will be guided by consultations between Niti Aayog, Asian Development Bank, and other stakeholders. Okay? So Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs confirmed that they are going to shelve this Greenfield cities proposal and they're going to redirect this money into brownfield cities basically. The focus will shift towards improving infrastructure in existing cities with population up to 1 lakh per the 2011 census. You have to remember this data also. Directly MCQ can be asked. What is the criteria for improving infrastructure in this in such a case? So it is 1 lakh per 2011 census. No, 8 cities were not mentioned. 8 cities were not mentioned. We had to bring in greenfield 8 cities in particular area. That area had been decided. That area obviously had been decided, but this did not come into place. Okay, John. The decision came from Prime Minister office as part of the new government's 100-day plan in early 2020. Okay, special assistance investments will now be channeled through the special assistance to states for capital investment program. So what is the program that we're talking about? Special assistance to states for capital assistance program, offering the 50-year interest-free loans. So this thing is part of the 50-year interest-free loan wala part only, that program. Planned greenfield townships will still be promoted. So whatever they have planned, okay, they have planned kahan pe that city is going to be, that will be promoted, but our focus will not be on those. Okay, and that will be as extensions of existing cities also, not new urban centers, but they will be attached to the existing centers only. Okay, and the upcoming 100,000 crore urban challenge scheme will also target smaller cities, not large metro areas. So why did the Indian government shelve the 8,000 crore plan for 8 new greenfield cities? What is the answer? Due to a lack of funds for capital investment, due to international pressure on urban land use, because Finance Commission withdrew its recommendation, or to focus on efficient investments in existing organic cities. Batao, what is the answer? Hanji, who's going to give me the answer? Why did Indian government shelve this 8,000 crore plan? John, Chetan, Bhakti, Vivek, Atithi, Siddharth. What is the answer? Bhakti is saying D. John is saying D. Vivek is also saying D. And D is absolutely the correct answer. So the focus is going to be on efficient investment in the existing cities. Right? Good morning, Utkarsh. America's big Iran war dilemma. Put boots on the ground or not? Now we know that Iran and Israel, अब यहाँ पे लड़ाई चल रही है between Iran and Israel. Right? Israel attacked the nuclear facility of Iran. And then US intervention is also seen here. Ceasefire was also done, but ceasefire violation was also seen. So यहाँ पे we are seeing that in the Middle East, this problem is happening. There is a problem. They are in conflict with each other. So now we are talking about America's dilemma. Okay, what is this dilemma now? So this article discusses about the strategic uncertainty which is facing the United States, especially under President Trump, following its alignment with Israel in escalating military actions against Iran. Now, this raises the question of whether this US will deploy ground troops to contain the conflict or risk broader regional instability, whether it is going to enter this war or it is going to bring in a ceasefire. This is the dilemma which US has. US has joined Israel's war against Iran by attacking Iranian nuclear installations. There's growing debate on whether US should deploy ground forces to end the conflict or avoid another protracted war in West Asia. Right? US avoids a ground war, Iran's descent into chaos could destabilize West Asia further. So if US does not decide to end the conflict, then there might be a conflict in West Asia further. There might be a future war. US faces a dilemma whether it wants to focus on war only or wants to preserve its influence credibility in the region. ठीक है, because this conflict threatens the oil supply routes also, because Iran is saying that it might close the Strait of Hormuz also, and also that is also creating a problem. Trump's political base opposes war. If we talk about the political base of Trump, it opposes war, and the ultimate decision will rest how these political optics work. Okay? So, what is the central dilemma facing the US according to the article? Whether to impose new sanctions on Iran, whether to commit ground troops or avoid another Middle East war, how to secure Israel's border against Iranian militias, whether to support Iran's nuclear development or not. What is the answer? Yes, so B is absolutely the correct answer, whether to commit ground troops or avoid another Middle East war. We have another article, India's quest for critical minerals must raise the clock. So another article we have related to critical minerals. Now critical minerals are those kind of minerals which are really important strategically, which have a strategic national importance. Okay? That is what are critical minerals. So this article is highlighting that it is urgent for India to accelerate its efforts in developing a robust supply chain for critical minerals. We need to develop a robust supply chain for critical minerals. Because what happens is they have long gestation periods. Once we extract them, it has a long gestation period. It takes time. We have weak domestic infrastructure. Our reliance is on imports, especially from China. So India needs to bring in swift and strategic reforms to secure its mineral future. Okay? Because these critical minerals, they have a long development cycle. It's not that आप अभी निकालने लगेंगे तो आपको फटाफट से मिल जाएंगे. It takes 15 to 25 years from exploration to production. So we need to really accelerate this area, and we need to accelerate the production. So from exploration to production, it takes 15 to 25 years. So this gestation period is long, right? India, if we talk about India's challenges, we have legacy inefficiencies, fragmented coordination, poor early stage exploration in key regions, lack of pilot scale and commercial scale R&D for processing, absence of high purity output and poor waste handling systems. These are the challenges that India is facing. Okay, we have this Mines and Minerals Amendment Act 2023. It enables private auctioning and foreign participation. We have this National Critical Mineral Mission of 2025 also, and incentives for rare earth mining and recycling. But we need to give it a push. We need to give it a boost. There's need for global, collaboration. Proposal for a Quad-led Indo-Pacific rare earth processing hub, with India as a processing hub supported by Australia. ठीक है, and what is the urgency that without bold time bound reforms India may lose the opportunity to become self reliant and we will be import dependent. ठीक है, so what is one of the major recommendations to reduce India's dependence on China for critical minerals? Establish quad led rare earth processing hub in India, increase taxes on imported minerals, ban export of all rare minerals, nationalize all mining operations. What is the answer? Yes, establish a quad-led rare earth processing hub in India. Okay. Next, again, we have this article related to coming oil price shock. Is India prepared for it? Because of these geopolitical tensions, there might be a potential oil crisis. Okay, especially after U.S. bombing of Iranian nuclear sites and Iran's threat to close the Strait of Hormuz. Now, this article is exploring how prepared India is to face this crude oil price surge and supply disruptions. Okay, so there's a risk that the Strait of Hormuz might, close. Iran's parliament has voted for closing it. This would disrupt the global oil chain and spike the prices. Take a crude oil. We saw this also in the previous live mint analysis also, that Brent crude briefly touched $81. It may rise to 90 to 100 per barrel if this Strait of Hormuz is closed. Bank of Baroda forecasts crude to average 80 for the year. 100 per barrel level could worsen inflation, slow economic growth. ठीक है, Nearly 40%, if we talk about India's vulnerability, 40% of India's crude oil imports, which is about 2 million barrels per day, it comes from the Strait of Hormuz. Again, a prolonged disruption, this could lead to higher fuel prices, which might affect inflation and consumption. India has diversified imports, with Russian oil now comprising 35% of crude imports, up to 2.2 million barrels per day. Imports from US and Russia not routed through Hormuz will be unaffected. So Hormuz से जो नहीं आ रहे, that will be unaffected, but otherwise we might have a problem. So what percentage of India's crude oil imports currently come from Russia, making it less vulnerable to the Strait of Hormuz disruption, which is coming from Russia, not from the Strait of Hormuz? 10%, 17%, 22%, or 35%? What is the answer? Yes, 35% is absolutely the correct answer. So now we have another important article over here related to India's fertility decline. So we are seeing that India's fertility rate is declining. What is the current fertility rate in India? So you might have read about the State of World Population report by UNFPA. What is the current fertility rate as of now in India? What is the fertility rate right now in India? And what is the replacement level fertility rate? What is the replacement level fertility rate? Chetan Bhakti, absolutely correct. Currently, fertility rate is at 1.9. But what is the replacement level fertility rate? Yes, Vivek, 1.9 hai, exactly. But what is the replacement level fertility rate? Another question. Who is going to tell me? Yes, very good, Chetan. 2.1 is the replacement level fertility rate and 1.9. Yes, 2.1, Bhakti, very good. ठीक है, and 1.9 is the current fertility rate. So we are actually short of this replacement level fertility rate. Replacement level fertility rate means that if there is a couple, then this couple should be replaced by at least two children. But we are seeing that this fertility rate has declined to 1.9. Yes, Vivek, very good. So this has declined to 1.9 in India. So total fertility rate fell to 1.9 in 2025. What are the factors that are contributing to this? Higher education levels, urbanization, delayed marriage, access to contraception, evolving aspirations. ठीक है, what are the reasons that we have seen? Financial barriers or financial issues are the leading concern for major couples, 38% of the couples. That is why they are desiring fewer children. Other barriers are they don't have adequate housing, there's job insecurity, there's lack of childcare, there's unwillingness of the partner, climate related anxiety is there. And India has a disproportionately high share of fertility related constraints as compared to the global averages. Over 30% Indians reported unintended pregnancies. 60% of both men and women face constraints in exercising reproductive rights. Around 33% of women and 34% of men felt unable to refuse sex. Right? 30% of men felt pressure to have a child that they didn't want. Then, declining fertility is seen as an opportunity for demographic dividend. Adolescent births have dropped sharply in India, especially among girls aged 15 to 19. So, according to UNFPA report, what is the most cited reason why Indian couples have fewer children than desired? Lack of childcare support, financial limitations, climate change concerns, or partner unwillingness. The most cited reason, major reason, the one major reason that we saw. But what is the answer? Yes, financial limitations, absolutely correct. A very important article that you can use in your answers if you have any question related to social issues, related to climate change, then you can use this over here. Asia is warming 2 times as fast as on an average. Okay, so this is according to the state of the climate in Asia in 2024. This is World Meteorological Organization's report, State of Climate in Asia report. Asia is experiencing a rate of warming which is twice than the global average. ठीक है, temperatures have increased, record breaking events we can see, which is impacting the human health. So Asia is warming 2 times the global average. Sea surface in Asia is also warming, which is double the global rate. Asia's average temperature was 1.04 degree Celsius higher than 1991-2020 average. Heat waves we are seeing, prolonged heat waves we are seeing. Countries like Japan, South Korea, China, they broke monthly temperature records. India reported 48,000 heat stroke cases, 159 deaths because of heat. So according to WMO's 2024 report, how much did the average temperature in Asia rise above the 1991 to 2020 average? 0.84 degrees Celsius, 1.04 degrees Celsius, 0.64 or 1.24 degrees Celsius. What is the answer? What is the answer? Quickly tell me. Yes, 1.04 degrees Celsius. ठीक है? अच्छा, again I have a surprise question for you. According to HSBC's flash PMI survey, what was India's composite output index in June, marking a 14-month high? 55, 58, 61 or 63? Who's going to tell me this answer? This is according to HSBC's flash PMI survey, India's composite output index in June. Bhakti is saying 61. Anyone else? Anyone else? Chetan is saying no idea. What about others? The answer is 61. Very good, Bhakti. India's economic activity hits 14-month high in June. This is according to HSBC. ठीक है, 14-month high India's economic activity. Yes, Vivek, very good. 61. ठीक है. So you can see over here HSBC's flash composite output index, which tracks activity across manufacturing and services, rose to 14-month high of 61. ठीक है. Rising Israel-Iran tensions threaten India's agricultural exports. Again, we have a news related to Israel-Iran tensions, that it may disrupt India's agricultural exports due to potential blockages in trade routes, especially through Iran's Bandar Abbas port. Okay, so there might be a decline in the agricultural exports from India. India's exports to Iran in 24-25 stood at $1.24 billion. Basmati rice alone worth $753.2 million. Iran accounts for 20% of India's basmati rice exports. 1,500 crore dollars worth of Indian payments are risked due to these tensions. The Bandar Abbas port, which is crucial for trade, it might become inaccessible. ठीक है? That is why experts are saying that we need to strengthen our Chabahar port as a safeguard. So, what percentage of India's basmati rice exports go to Iran, as mentioned in the article? 10%, 15, 20, or 25%? What is the answer? What percentage of India's basmati rice exports go to Iran? Yes, absolutely correct. 20% is the correct answer. ठीक है. Next article is the military industrial complex is out in the open now. So what is this article? This is again a viewpoint, you can say, an article. Now this article is explaining how global military industrial complex, which was a concern raised by President Eisenhower, has evolved into an openly dominant force driving economic, strategic and political agendas worldwide. ठीक है. So with examples from US, Iran, China, this article explores how warfare today is often driven more by economic incentives than by geopolitical strategy. So what this article is saying is that warfare right now, whether we should indulge in war right now in today's era, the reason is more due to economic incentives rather than geopolitical strategy. So pehle, people entered into war because of a geopolitical strategy. Okay, because of geopolitics they entered into war. But now the dynamics are shifting towards economic incentives that to maintain that becomes economic superpower. For that, people are entering into war. Okay, warfare offers economic benefits such as job creation, technological advancements, and industrial growth, and that is why people are entering into war. That is what this article is saying. US military actions protect strategic resources like oil, gas, rare minerals. Iran's mineral wealth, which is including lithium and copper, is at the center of geopolitical competition. So now what are they fighting for? Economic wealth. Okay, economic motives are outweighing the geopolitical ethics. Okay, they are not they are they are undermining the geopolitical ethics, entering into economic motives. For that they are fighting with each other. For example, securing the rare earth metals is a major reason why people are military why countries are moving towards militarization, why countries are focusing on intensifying militarization. Okay, so according to article, what key economic factor increasingly drives modern military conflicts? Religious ideologies, humanitarian concerns, strategic resource control and industrial profit, or population growth? What is the answer? What is the key economic factor which drives modern military conflicts? Yes, strategic resource control and industrial profit. Okay, so that is all. These were the articles I wanted to discuss with you. If you want to connect with me beyond these sessions, you can connect with me on this Telegram group, Mannat Educator. Sorry, my throat was very bad today, so maybe that's why my voice might not be very clear today. Okay, so that is all. Thank you so much, everyone. If there's any doubt that you want to ask, you can ask me in the comment section. Otherwise, we are going to end the session over here. So you also have to read the newspaper just like this, okay? Read the newspaper, read the articles, try to link it with your static portion and then see this, okay? Thank you so much, Chetan. You too, everyone. Have a good day. Keep studying. Acha, at 11 a.m. I'm going to take up a session. So you know that PFRDA notification is out. PFRDA notification is out and you have approximately 75 days to cover the syllabus. So I am going to bring in a strategy for you. This session will be at 11 a.m. So I hope I'm going to see you guys at 11 a.m. Take care. There's going to be a strategy session. So see you guys at 11 a.m. PFRDA strategy for your exam. Take care. Alright. Thank you so much. Have a good day, everyone. And see you all in my next one. Bye bye.